Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Kneon. We're going to talk about DC Comics and all the changes going on with DC, their distribution and comic book shops. This news came to me via CCG. Thank you for sending it. That Lunar is restricting DC Comics distribution. You're not allowed to sell the comics over eBay if you have an eBay store or through buying clubs. Now, there's quite a bit of history in the last couple months regarding DC Comics. Of course, when the pandemic shut down the majority of comic book shops, Diamond Comic Distribution decided to, basically curl up under the desk in the fetal position and leave comic shops on their own. DC said, no, we have to find a way forward to sell comics. So they enlisted the help of not one, but two other distributors, UCS and Lunar. And they cut ties with Diamond altogether. Now, just a couple days ago, it was announced that UCS is no longer going to be distributing DC Comics as of the beginning of the year, as I understand it. So now we're down to Lunar. And Lunar is now restricting how you can sell DC Comics. It'll be interesting to see how this affects DC's numbers in the direct market. I don't know if DC really cares at this point. It seems like they're trying to refocus to double down on YA graphic novels, trade paperbacks, that sort of thing, that they're kind of letting the floppy go to the wayside. But this is coming to us via Bleeding Cool. Bleeding Cool is talking about how UCS is no longer going to be distributing DC Comics. It was UCS's decision rather than that of DC Comics, which is really interesting. I think UCS doesn't want to have to take back the 5G books, or Future State, or whatever the hell they're calling it. I think that's because DC made a big announcement that these books would be returnable, and I think UCS is probably like, yeah, we don't want to do that. They said that basically it seems that Midtown Comics owners of UCS had enough of dealing with DC Comics at a distributor level at least, and quit rather than renew their contract with DC. And now Lunar will have the whole of the DC Comics distribution monopoly to themselves. So yeah, they quit. So now we're down to Lunar, and Lunar is putting restrictions on how these books can be sold. Lunar has been making plans, and with a much larger market to service, they're bringing in restrictions. It's likely that these are imposed by DC Comics, and it could even be a reason that UCS declined to go forward. Firstly, Lunar states that they have leased a new warehouse and are currently beefing up their warehouses and CSR staff to handle the influx of new retailers from UCS. They also confirmed Bleeding Cool's account that stores will now have to make a minimum of $125 worth of orders a week or $500 per month. With new deals that those retailers who don't make a weekly total will have their order suspended until the following weeks, etc. But the big change is that Lunar Distribution will now be enforcing certain other requirements for stores to keep their accounts. They must meet one of the three criteria listed. Has to be brick and mortar store, dedicated direct-to-consumer website with functioning shopping cart, or an online platform selling direct to consumers in a format other than auctions. In other words, you can't sell via eBay. And this is going to be hard, I think, for a lot of retailers, because I don't know how many smaller comic shops have their own, Shopify store, whatever, ready to rock. I know one of the new shops that opened here in town, they opened right before the pandemic, and they actually survived the pandemic, and they survived it via eBay. That's what I was told by one of the employees. They said if it wasn't for eBay, we'd be out of business by now. But I digress. Lunar states they will be auditing accounts and that retailers may be asked to provide proof that you have satisfied one of the criteria. What does that mean? It means those who order solely for eBay will be cut out. It could mean those who use Amazon Marketplace. We'll see if that counts as their own online platform. It also cuts out buying clubs where fans group together to buy comics at retailer discounts. This news should be welcomed by many comic book stores who see such activity as undercutting them in ways they can't match. Lunar states the direct market doesn't exist without you, the retailers who are out there every day on the front lines selling to your customers. We're committed to keeping the direct market thriving and constantly striving to better every aspect of our business to help you and your employees. Yeah, I don't know how this is going to set with people. I think it's just going to make it harder for people to get comics. Somebody said Longbox of 90s comics is very curious to see sales numbers once these restrictions go into effect to find out what portion of the market they are. Agreed, the concept of buying clubs is a great one. I don't buy enough new comics to justify, but kudos to those who created the loophole to get their books. Yeah, so this is going to be really interesting. I don't see how eBay sellers will be cut out. They simply aren't allowed to use the auction format anymore. Yeah. I mean, I know even established businesses and established publishers use eBay. It's a massive market. It's the largest online, direct to consumer channel, I think. Amazon probably coming in a close second. So this is going to be really interesting. I think they're trying very hard to make sure that comic shops don't get cut out of the distribution method here. And in some ways, I agree with that. In other ways, I don't agree with it, because I think what's going to happen is that the comic book industry is going to take a hit, because you're basically saying, well, we have to make comics for the direct market. And we see how successful crowdfunding and direct-to-consumer has been outside of the direct market. Maybe not in the hundreds of thousands of copies of books, but at least in dollar amounts for individual creators. So basically forcing people to go through the direct market, I don't think is a very good idea. And I'm going to be honest, I don't think that Warner Media is going to really be on board with this either, because they have to be looking at DC and being like, how much more could you guys be selling if we didn't have to funnel all the books to comic shops? And again, this is no slight against comic shops. I love comic shops. I'm sad that they're disappearing. I'm just saying, from a corporate standpoint, they're going to look at this and be like, we could pocket more money and probably move more product if we just sold all the comics direct to consumer from our website, or got rid of floppies altogether and just sold graphic novels. Sold them through Amazon or Barnes & Noble or whatever's left, And we know that DC is changing. We know that Warner came in, laid a bunch of people off, and I think they're going to lay more people off. I really do. Warner announced that they're going to be doing massive layoffs in the coming weeks, and their third quarter was bad. It was really, really bad. Like, Warner is just dead weight to AT&T at this point, and they're going to look at DC Comics and they're going to look for places to cut for sure, and they might cut more. So I don't know. It feels to me like all of these changes in comics distribution and DC Comics and all of that, it feels like kind of a systematic shutdown, like the doors are being closed behind us, in the direct market. It's just kind of like, yeah, this is going to go tits up pretty soon. Let's just kind of wind it all down. I mean, I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't know, guys. I don't think this is a good change necessarily. I think at this point, DC Comics needs to sell as many books as they can, regardless of how it's done. So speaking of DC, speaking of Warner Media, I just thought I'd throw this into a video because it really wasn't worth its own video, I don't think. But Justice League is removing Geoff Johns and John Berg producer credits from the Snyder Cut, which is turning out to be more like a freaking mini-series. They're adding Jared Leto's Joker back into it. I think they're adding Deathstroke the Terminator, Slade. I mean, all this crazy stuff they're adding to this cut. It sounds to me like they're padding out this movie to basically be a mini-series at this point. But yeah, former Warner Brothers producers Geoff Johns, comic book guy, and John Berg have had their producing credits removed, reportedly, from Zack Snyder's Justice League. Now, this could be because of the debacle with the Cyborg actor, Ray Fisher. I don't know. According to the Hollywood Reporter, and this is coming from CBR, Johns and Berg will not receive producer credits on the Snyder Cut, which is apparently currently undergoing reshoots that involve Ben Affleck, Ray Fisher, Amber Heard, and possibly others. No, they didn't get rid of Amber Heard. No, they're not going to get rid of Amber Heard. They're not going to get rid of Amber Heard. Short of her like shooting somebody in the face or something, they're not going to get rid of her. The site goes on to state that sources close to Berg and Johns have confirmed their intentions to remove their names from the Snyder Cut since they are not working on the project and are no longer Warner Brothers studio executives. Jared Leto is reportedly returning to the DCEU to reprise the Suicide Squad Joker, which I hated his Joker with a passion. I did not like his take on the Joker. I don't think it was the Joker. But then again, to be fair, Joker in Joker, Joaquin Phoenix, isn't really comic book Joker either, but I thought he was a more interesting character, that's for sure. Cyborg actor Ray Fisher alleged in July that directors Joss Whedon's on-set treatment of the Justice League cast and crew was gross, abusive, unprofessional, and completely unacceptable. He then called out Johns and Berg, stating the duo enabled Whedon's alleged mistreatment. So they're wiping them off of Justice League. They are. So yeah, I mean, this is going to be quite the thing, right? It's not just going to be the Snyder Cut that everybody was hoping for. It's going to wind up being a freaking miniseries that they're going to use, I think, to try to reignite interest in the DCEU. I don't know how it's going to work. I'm going to be honest. It seems like it's got a lot of drama attached to it. It had drama attached to it before, but now it just seems like it's turning into this huge ordeal. I don't know. But again, just to remind you that Warner is cutting big time. They're focusing on HBO Max. They've got more executives leaving. I don't think people leaving on the DC side is out of the question. I think we're going to see more people leave or get gone from DC, and I do feel like everything that's going on right now is just kind of Warner winding down DC as a monthly comic book publisher, probably going to switch them over to just graphic novels, YA graphic novels, and merchandise management, and you'll have like an office full of brand managers, and I can totally see this happening over at Marvel too. I mean, Disney is absolutely feeling the pinch right now. Wait until after Disney's Q4 earnings call. It's going to be catastrophic, guys. It's going to be absolutely catastrophic. So I'm going to wrap this one up. Curious what your thoughts are if you're a comic book retailer, especially. I do not use buying clubs. I've heard of them. I've never used them. I do buy a lot of comics off of eBay, though, because it's hard, especially now. We don't have a lot of comic shops around here. So for me, for the longest time, even getting copies of comics to take to conventions that I worked on, I worked on Disney comics for a number of years. I would buy them from retailers off of eBay. So I don't know. Let me know what you think. We'll talk later.